Welcome to the Peak Performance Hormone and Peptide podcast. I am Justin Bucky with my co-host,
DT Roth.
Thank you guys for joining us on episode number 4.
Yes, we're back. We're in our own
compound.
Trying to make our own podcast right now.
Yeah, please disregard the table. We have one on the way.
Yeah, place that we're using before, they weren't really
delivering
up to par with our needs.
So hopefully we can crank out these a little quicker than we have been over the past 3 months, because that is our goal, to get a couple of these out a week.
No, for sure. I think we're
going to the point where we're going to need armed bodyguards and security because of the paparazzi and the groupies all over.
From the fake accounts that are coming out.
Yeah.
Apparently we're still scamming people.
Yeah. So anybody who is on any of the social media, if anybody's messaging you asking to take orders for you for hormones without ever talking to a doctor, without any blood work, asking you to pay through Cash App, that is not us. Please, if you are unsure who you're dealing with, go to our website, LifeXMD.com, and you can do live chat there to verify you're speaking with the right people, or you can speak to us on the phone, 833-543-3963, and just verify that you are speaking with the correct people, because there are more and more scammers literally by the hour out there.
Yeah, it's especially on TikTok and Instagram. I mean, we've actually had companies use our stuff.
Yep.
People are creating your accounts, my accounts with other people's stuff, putting our stuff. So it's just a kind of a shit show right now with, but it's,
These people are paying attention.
Yeah. They are. To their defense, though, I guess social media, you can take anyone's stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times we don't understand. I think you and I kind of get a little angry or frustrated with the fact that people are taking our stuff.
Yes.
But it is social media and it's a copycat. So if no one's copying you, I guess you're not doing anything right.
Would Biggie Small say it?
No.
Or was it Tupac or someone? I can't remember that.
One of the guys that got shot said it. One of the guys.
It wasn't 50 Cent.
No. He lived.
Yeah. So be careful who you guys are speaking with, because they'll do tricky little things like put a period in between Justin.Bucky. Actually, that's the legit one. But they'll put a period at the end of Justin Bucky or something, and you might not catch it. So just be very careful who, or do your homework and make sure you're speaking to the right people.
I think you had one that was just like Justin Bucky 5.
Yeah. There's a bunch of those. And So
I guess we're doing a little Q&A today.
Yeah, we're going to do some Q&A. So what I did is I went through the questions off of TikTok and just pulled some of the either ones we get pretty consistently or some of the more recent ones. So some of these may not be in perfect question form, because a lot of times I have to decipher what people are asking.
Dude, these are questions here. This one?
Yeah. Paradox. So somebody had asked about to help with premature ejaculation. There's a medication, and I'm probably going to butcher the name.
To help with it.
Yes, to help with it. So if you're reaching orgasm too quickly, basically this desensitizes. I believe.
Why does that even happen?
Sensitivity. I don't know if like who's a supermodel. I don't know. If some of them took their clothes off in front of me, I'd probably do it too.
I know how not to have that.
So have some drinks.
Take Tren. Jesus. I've actually had people ask me this, and I don't have an answer, because honestly, I don't know. I'm like, dude, I feel like that's one of the things you're like,
there's so much that can go into it, from like psychiatric factors.
Yeah. Once it happens once,
you'll get performance anxiety.
Right. And then it keeps happening.
And you'll talk yourself into it. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken with that at the end of the day, we figured out that it was just they were getting inside their own head.
Really?
And they really just need to take a breath, take a step back, and not be overly nervous.
I think it can happen like this, or it can happen the other way, where you're just like,
you can't get off it.
I can't do anything.
Nope, you can't get off. And certain things can throw off, like medications if you start a new one. So that's really hard to say. Is it my stressful life, or is it the medication I started taking?
Well, I think if you start dating a girl for the first time, it's awesome.
Yes.
Because you can just pound it, and then they're impressed.
Leave a lasting impression.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh man, they're going to know that I can't, I just can't. Right. So that's a great way.
That's why I move every 9 months.
So this is the medication that you can get.
Yes. It's called paroxetine, Paroxetine.
But we don't provide it.
We can provide it through the pharmacy. Okay. We do have a compounded version where it's compounded with generic Cialis, which is tadalafil, or sildenafil, which is the generic Viagra. And I've even seen some other countries. I haven't seen it produced in ours, so I don't know. But there are some generic medications in like India and stuff that will compound it or manufacture it with that paroxetine combo, which I'm probably butchering, and then whatever the ED medication is.
Sounds good to me. I couldn't even say it.
So yeah, I believe there's 2 medications that are like sister brother medications like that. But that's the main, most popular one that I've been educated on in the past.
That's weird. I've had think I've had issues when I was young with that.
I usually just try to race them and see if I can beat them.
Time it. Man, these are really long. When did you get these? These are on your TikTok?
I pulled them right out of TikTok when I was answering people's questions yesterday.
That's awesome.
Under the video posts.
So I've never heard this before. I've actually never heard this. How can I get an HGH pill that dissolves underneath your tongue?
So I hear that pretty often. I can tell you what I believe it's he is asking about. And I believe he's referencing some of the videos we talked about troches. So it would be like MK677 in troche form.
I was thinking like real growth.
Yeah. So if anybody ever tries to offer you growth hormone that's orally available, it is a scam. They're 100% ripping you off. There is no such thing as oral HGH, which is the 191 amino acid sequence. There are things that are, we'll call precursors to it, which would be like MK677, which is a peptide that stimulates your body's production and the release of it. But there is no actual brand name HGH that comes in pill or oral form.
It's hard enough to get growth hormone real.
Yeah, and honestly, people have been asking about this for 10 plus years. It's one of the biggest scam things. If you just type in oral HGH, all sorts of like supplements will come up, from over the counter supplements that you'd buy off like say bodybuilding.com to you name it. And it's honestly, it's snake oil.
Tell you what, snake oil. I used to work at GNC. And this, not the GNC.
Yeah.
Had this myostatin inhibitor from MHP.
I remember.
Fucking egg yolks. Crazy myostatin inhibitor. And literally when you opened it up, it was yellow. And I was like, what is it? And they put this vanilla flavor, and then you start eating it too much. Because I would just straight dry. Yeah, it was fucking really good. Well, it's good tasting.
Yeah, it's probably really rich.
It didn't do anything for me. Talk about snake oil. Shit. Okay. So
avoid snake oil.
I'm sorry?
I said avoid snake oil.
Yeah. Never mind. Never mind. It's gonna go down a
rabbit hole,
a Wutan or Wutan, whatever it's called.
Let's go down. This is one we've touched on before, but there's so many new people constantly starting to follow and stuff. I think we can go over it again, which is this gentleman was asking about pro hormones for fat loss. And I was going to leave it to you because you've got a lot of experience in that.
A little too much. Pro hormones for fat loss. Shit, I feel like back in the day you could use them, but I mean, it was technically like oral steroids in a sense.
Steroids.
Yeah. So like yes and no. Yeah. I would say yes and no. Would it work? Probably. If it was 2008, 2006. Nowadays, the shit that they have out there that's considered pro hormones, that and like the SARMs, that's all bullshit, in my opinion. Yes.
And a lot of it's harder on your system than the actual hormones that we have had available for 40, 50, 60 years. So oxandrolone, for example, yes, it's going to stress your liver and kidneys over time taking it. So you want to be responsible with it. But that being said, there's actually a lot of years built, or actually that's horribly.
No, it's good. Yeah,
there was plenty of research studies over the years that have been done on oxandrolone. So we know the risks or rewards of it. Whereas a lot of these SARMs that come out or a lot of these pro hormone stuff, there isn't research studies on it because what they did is they changed the molecule from a banned substance to no longer be banned, but we don't have the research and the years of testing and trials on it. So take what's available that has years of research because it's much safer.
For sure.
Going, who knows what we're putting in our body.
It's kind of crazy. Like you actually would sit here and say, I mean, theoretically, then the injectable steroids are safer than the pro hormones because they are, due to the fact that if you take, of course,
obviously,
it's everything that you can contradict. When I say that, you can say, well, it depends on where. Yeah. So, are they safer? Yeah, I would say steroids are safer than pro hormones.
Yeah, obviously it depends on which ones and dosing, all that. But, are they safe if you don't take any cautions? No. But if you're going to abuse something, I wouldn't say abuse it anyway, but testosterone, we at least know what that's going to do to you at quite a wide variance of dosages, whereas there isn't a lot of research on the pro hormones. So, and I can tell you, one of the pro hormones back in my good old day was Superdrol. And that's good stuff. It's very similar to Mastron, for example. However, I believe they methylated or they ethylated the ester, I believe. I might have that backwards because all they do is they change a molecule on there and it's no longer on the banned substance list. However, it absolutely destroys your lipid profile. I remember I think I tried it twice. And the second time I did blood work and my HDL was 9.
Oh, sweet.
And that was after like 3 weeks at, I want to say 30 milligrams. So I just scrapped it. It wasn't worth the rewards that I was getting out of it for what it was clearly doing to my internal side.
For sure. Hi, got my blood work back. Tests us up to 1259. My estrogen came back at 86. I'm a fat 210. Should be 175. Is it estradiol allowing me to lose weight? I gained 10 pounds the first 3 months and I'm starting back, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, well, do I need an AI? There's a lot of questions here. I would say
you don't need an AI if you don't have gyno symptoms.
True. Being fat is your own damn fault.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And I would say number 3, starting out on an 1,800 calorie diet, that's the third strike. Because what are you going to do from there? Go down?
Yeah. And again, we don't have a lot of background info on this gentleman or what his experience is or anything, but there's a lot of people, and probably last week I've gotten a lot of questions about what AI should I take or which estrogen blocker should I take because I'm starting my therapy or starting my cycle and I don't want to get gyno. The answer is don't take it unless you have it.
Right.
So you don't want to preemptively start taking a blocker because they have plenty of side effects that come along with them. So yes, it's smart to have a blocker on hand if you are somebody who's prone to gyno symptoms.
Sure.
But don't just take it because you're concerned that you might get gyno. I promise you will not wake up in one morning and be like, I got gyno overnight.
Now they get sensitive. They start to feel a lump.
Yep.
It's usually one tit than the other.
You tap it with like a barbell when you're doing pull downs. It feels like you're getting stabbed with a needle.
I went wakeboarding one time. No, excuse me, not even wakeboarding. I couldn't even call it wakeboarding. I went to a place that they pulled you on a rope from the rafters, and I laid down on the thing. I was like, oh, my nipples. I was like, wow, they're tender. Yeah, well, pro
Tweaking
hormones.
on will do that.
Yeah, pro hormones and fucking nips.
Okay, so let's see here.
Don't want
Next
that
question. So this is another question we've got quite a few times is people asking me to send them the list of panels because they want to go to, say, LabCorp or Quest and ask to have it done. The issue is the panel that we run is proprietary or custom, and that's not because I'm not willing to give it to you. We are, but you can't go to Quest or LabCorp and say, I want the LifeXMD panel or the male hormone optimization panel. So we have, if you go to our Instagram, and I'll try to do one for our TikTok as well, but if you go to our Instagram, there is an actual post with the screenshot of what all we test for the men, and I believe even the women. So you can go there and pull it off there. And then if you have a cool doctor who will test for it, you can have them run it right there. And the biggest thing I've noticed over the years is a lot of doctors will pick and choose what they feel like testing. Mm-hmm. So just be adamant how important it is to test everything on there, because if you only test certain things, we don't really get a full picture of what's going on. So we don't have a clear direction to go from where you currently are to where you want to be and what's the safest, fastest way to get there. Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel bad for people too, because like, oh, the blood work, it's expensive, this and that. I'm like, yeah, dude, I get it, bro. Like, if you got insurance, like, can you? I'm like, I don't. They're not going to do. The problem is this: if you want to use your insurance, you have to go to a primary. Mm-hmm. Once you go to a primary, they're going to ask you, why are you doing this? Yes. Why are you doing these labs? And then you get into this big thing, and then it's a shit show.
Yep. So one thing that some of our clients have done in the past is they ran their blood through us, and we have no way of knowing if your insurance will cover it or not. So I can't say, submit the receipt to them. But what some people have done is gotten a copy of the receipt and submitted to their insurance. Some people actually got reimbursed. Some people didn't. But some people that didn't were actually able to apply it towards their deductible. So it wasn't a total loss for them. And the other benefit is our labs are very cost effective. I've seen people selling labs that are similar to us for $1,500 and $2,000. I know that if insurance denies you on this lab panel, it's about a $5,000 to $6,000 lab panel, depending on who you go through. Whereas you get it from us, and it's going to be between $350, $500, depending on what you get. And if you pay for, say, the whole year, which is a couple blood works, doctor consultation, all that. So it's very cost effective. And worst case scenario, you might be out a couple $100, but at least you're not out a few thousand.
Yeah.
If your insurance denies it.
I'd rather just pay the couple $100.
Yeah.
Let's see. You want to go over we could do that. What's your protocol for glutathione injections, dose, and how often?
Sure. So what I personally do is I would like to do 5 times a week, 200 milligrams. So I'll go, say, like a Monday through Friday, or maybe take one day off on Wednesday and do a Saturday or Sunday. Right. But not everybody likes to inject that much. So I recommend, and I've had good success with this with people, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Dosing wise, I'll typically do between 200 to 300 milligrams. If I'm sick and trying to fight something off, I'll go up to 400. Right. I just don't notice a lot of difference as I start to go higher and higher. So I would much rather take a little bit every day and have it in my body than take, super physiological doses or higher dosages and kind of have these ups and downs.
Yeah.
So it's case by case, but starting around the 200 milligram mark and then adjusting your dose from there or increasing the frequency of how often you take it weekly is a good plan.
Yeah.
And also, what are you using it for? Are you using it for anti-aging purposes, like skin rejuvenation, antioxidant purposes, or are you using it because you were on something oral that stressed out your liver and kidneys and you want to clean that up? So you want to take it literally every day for 30 days because you want to do everything possible.
That's a good one. I mean, also too, I just had a patient, his, I forgot the name of it. Oh, wow. I totally fucking whiffed on that. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, Justin, I've been seeing your stuff for a while, and I was wondering what you would say would be a good cycle, but only SARMs and peptides. So, following along the lines of what we said in a previous video, I don't recommend SARMs. There's not enough information on them, and there's a lot of other products out there that will get you the same or better results that we have a lot of information on, so it's just not worth the risk. Now, as far as peptides go, wondering what would be a good cycle. So I don't know what your goals are. I don't have any background info on you, but I can tell you that one of the best peptides, I'll call it all-encompassing for healing injuries, increasing lean muscle, dropping body fat, boosting the immune system. My personal favorite is the LR3 IGF-1. It's going to help you heal injuries. It's going to help you recover from workouts. You're going to get great muscle pumps while you work out. So assuming any of those are your goals, this is a great peptide to cover a wide basis of those things.
Yeah.
What's your favorite peptide?
Probably, I would say IGF. For working out, IGF.
Yeah.
It's probably the only thing.
Have you tried Research IGF before?
Like underground?
Yes.
Yeah, it's shit.
Okay, so that was my next question. I know when you first started here, I was talking to you and I'm like, you got to try this because once you try this, even if you think you had good IGF before, you'll realize there's a night and day difference when it comes to quality. So what did you notice, or what do you notice the most from IGF?
I think in the beginning, I noticed a huge pump. Pumps were great. I think at this point, I do it because of the fact that I just know it helps and I know it works. Going back to like the underground stuff and the research peptides and chemicals or whatever you call them. The underground stuff, I get why people do it. Sure. It's cheap, right? I mean, it's
and
awesome.
Availability.
Yeah, you can get it. And you can get it at your house, just get it sent, whatever, blah, blah. I think as you get older, you start to realize that quality over quantity, right? So a lot of guys that they'll ask, hey, DT, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And I'm like, yeah, it's great. You're going to find it online for $80. You're going to find it for $50. Unfortunately for pharmaceutical grade stuff, it costs more because it works. And I know that's the biggest ripoff shit that you can hear because I talk about oxandrolone and you hear, oh, it's pharmaceutical. Every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry has pharmaceutical growth, oxandrolone for underground.
Right.
No, they don't.
I know.
Maybe one. And that's probably someone that's been doing it for fucking decades.
Odds are they don't, because the raw material wholesalers, before they decided to stop carrying the oxandrolone when the new ruling classification regulation by the FDA came in, back in the good old day, it was literally probably 1/5 to 1/10 what it is now. I know a kilogram, last I checked, was around 52 or 55,000 when for a pharmacy. Whereas years ago, it was a fraction of that. I want to say it was like between 5,000 and 10,000 for the kilo. And I know that if you go to underground, some of the raw material suppliers, it's even fractions of that.
Right.
So I can tell you that virtually no underground lab is going to say, hey, I'm going to pay 50 grand for this kilogram of raw material when I can get it for 5 grand over here. Even if they could get it from a raw material supplier that could supply them, which they can't.
I'll tell you this, talking about underground and pharmaceutical stuff, because I know this is good. This is going to lead into something that I think we should talk about. So I know we don't like to talk about steroids too much, but, and I say steroids with bodybuilding stuff, illegal stuff, there does come a point, I think, when you have to tell your experience about certain things. Not because you're trying to say I know better or whatnot. It's just like, this is what I've gone through, right? Taking underground testosterone at anywhere from 600 to 800, and I'm just using even numbers here. It's not the same if you would take an actual pharmaceutical from 600 to 800. I'll tell you that right now. And also it doesn't hurt. or it would hurt less, I would say, because people react differently.
Sure.
One of the biggest things that I think has ruined pharmaceutical grade, that term or that statement, is that everyone says it like we said.
Sure.
And like you said, the cost, really good of what things really cost. And I mean,
sure. I've been on both ends of the spectrum from the illegal side when I did stupid stuff when I was a young kid to I worked in, did the compounding in a pharmacy or in a compound pharmacy that supplied doctors that had practices just like this. So I've seen both ends of the spectrum of what the costs are. And, it's night and day.
Yeah. It's, I mean, the underground stuff comes from China, which
a lot of raw materials come from there too.
So let me ask you this. This is a really good question. The pharmaceutical grade stuff, where does the pharmaceutical grade stuff come from?
The raw material?
Yeah. Would it come from China or would it actually come from, does the US make it and send it to the pharmacies? Like, how does that happen?
Sure. So the vast majority of raw materials do come from China.
Okay.
They're much more lax with their, what's the right word? With chemical waste.
Okay.
And that's the reason that a lot of the stuff is not made in the United States because there is a lot of chemical waste left over. And financially it doesn't make a lot of sense when we can get it from somewhere else. Obviously where it makes sense is if there's a pandemic and stuff shuts down, then there's a shortage. But that being said, the majority comes from China. Some raw materials do come from Europe and India. And the US does make some, but it's very minuscule compared to where the bulk majority do come from. Now, that being said, the raw material suppliers that do source it from China that are FDA approved have to go through a whole boatload of other hurdles and stuff to keep their FDA certification and also to supply US licensed pharmacies. So they'll test the raw materials for accuracy of dosing, heavy metals, sterility, endotoxin, mold. Whereas the guy who owns the UG lab, number one, he doesn't have the capability to test for most of that stuff. And number two, it's going to cost a lot of money. So odds are he's more than likely not going to do that because he doesn't have the means as a big pharmacy would have.
Gotcha.
So when we say China, a lot of it does come from China, whether it's pharmaceutical or underground, but how it's manufactured and the standards that the raw material suppliers have to keep is night and day difference.
All right. It's just like supply and demand, right?
Sure.
Like it's importing, exporting, stuff like that. I mean, the United States buys stuff from China. Sure. I mean, realistically. And I think because we hone in on China because we feel like they're dirty or whatever, like, oh, it's Chinese made. I'm notorious for being like, oh, that's China. That's from China, but I guess I say it like that because of the quality.
Sure.
Knowing from it's come from a pharmacy, and I know pharmacies can mess up here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're pretty much getting the highest quality of China-based products.
Yeah, and one of the things that forces pharmacies to hold themselves to a highest standard is this the 503A and 503B accreditation, which is it's the highest compounding accreditation you can earn before I believe you become a drug manufacturer like Pfizer or Merck, et cetera. Okay. And the reason that they're held to a higher standard is because they pumped out or spent millions of dollars to get their pharmacies up to date and up to the I believe it's ISO 8001 criteria that they have to follow. And if they don't follow that and they get reprimands from the FDA or they're not following the proper protocols and procedures, they can lose that. Number one, they can lose their pharmacy. It could be shut down. Number two, they can have their licensing pulled and they either can't do business or they're only going to be able to do business in a very small area. So that's a good safety measure that you can pretty much bet that pharmacies aren't going to be cutting corners that held that highest accreditation because they stand to lose a lot by doing so.
Yeah. Should open up a manufacturing company. No, I think that was a really good subject because I feel like a lot of people ask where the hell this shit come from.
Yep.
Anyway, you don't want to say China because they're like, oh, well, what makes you different? And you got to explain exactly what you just explained. And
one of the comments actually said something along the lines of they wanted pricing and the peptide pricing shouldn't be expensive because they're cheap to make. Sure, peptides can be cheap to make, but what you're not thinking about is all of the other hands that are involved in this. You have to keep your lights on. You have to pay a pharmacist, typically multiple pharmacists. You have to buy from a raw material supplier that's FDA licensed, approved. Like I said, with the oxandrolone example, it's going to cost you $50,000 for a kilo of oxandrolone versus, say, roughly $5,000. I mean, the list goes on and on. All these expenses.
People don't understand the business side of things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone thinks, not everyone, excuse me. A lot of people think that I should get this cheap because it's cheap.
Right.
listen, man, everyone's in here to make money. All right. Whether you like it or not. Yeah. So I have to make money for me. You have to make money for you. The person selling the peptide raws are making money for them. Like everything's being marked up. Right. That's just a chain of events. Mm-hmm. So by the time it gets to you, it might be 5, 6, 7 times even. I don't know. That's just, it is what it is, man. Welcome to the fucking world. Yep. Okay. Just with cars, just like food, you know, you go to a butcher and if you want to buy a cow from him, he'll give you probably a better deal than if you want a couple pounds of meat. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah. I hate saying it, but this is the God's honest truth. You get what you pay for. You know, if somebody's offering you a $15 bottle of some type of peptide, like